What is going on, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much on this Thanksgiving for tuning into this latest episode of Orioles Today. As always, I am Sean Ferguson, and thank you so much again for spending a little holiday time with me watching this video. I won't keep you guys too terribly long on this one, but thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are a fan of this episode, please throw some homemade sweet potato casserole at the like button. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Hopefully you guys have already gotten your bellies full or are getting ready to get your bellies full with some homemade cooking. I know I am. I am super excited to just go down there and tear up that spread that's down there waiting on me. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to get right into it, guys. And I want to talk about, I know it happened a few days ago, but I wanted to talk about the trade that the Boston Red Sox made, acquiring starting pitcher Sonny Gray. I talked about Sonny Gray on this channel a few weeks ago about how he could possibly be an option for the Orioles to bring in. I wasn't super thrilled about the possibility, just with what the Orioles have done in the past with pitchers that are aging. They were great, but they're not in their prime anymore. Craig Kimbrell as a closer, Charlie Morton as a starter. Guys that aren't where we wish they were a few years ago, but we bring them in anyway. And I thought that Sonny Gray could be one of those guys. And I'm not saying Mike Elias never called St. Louis or talked to the GM over in St. Louis about the possibility of a trade. That definitely could have happened. And with Mike Elias's background, that probably did happen. But the Boston Red Sox are the ones who pull the trigger and acquire Sonny Gray from St. Louis. And after reading kind of what Boston is still having to give up to the 36-year-old Gray in this trade, I feel like we did but dodge a bullet, especially if the Orioles are going to go after some bigger names in free agency. The $21 million that Boston is still having to pay Sonny Gray this year, I think it's too much for what you're going to get from him. You're going to get consistency if he stays healthy. He's been super consistent throughout his career, and that's something that the Red Sox are most likely going to get out of him. They're not going to get prime Sonny Gray from a few years ago, or even decent Sonny Gray from a few years ago. They're not going to get that, but they're going to get, like I said, consistency. Gray did have a no-trade clause. He waived that to go to Boston. He's a three-time All-Star. Last season, he wasn't terrible. He went 14-8 with a 4.28 ERA. That's middle to back-end rotation for what Boston's looking for. You figure they'd go, since they are going to have to replace Giolito, which we'll get into in a second, you'd figure they go a little younger, but they get consistency with Gray coming in. And we'll see what else he's able to do. He's only getting older. We'll see how much his play starts to dwindle in Boston. And St. Louis is going to get left-hand prospect Brandon Clark and right-hander Richard Fitz. They're also going to get an option for either cash or a player to be named later. Boston is going to get $20 million from St. Louis. This deal is kind of funky. Gray was guaranteed $40 million for the next two seasons, $35 million for 2026, and a $5 million buyout option of the $30 million team option for 2027. His contract then was changed, so he's pretty much making $41 million guaranteed. It's a $31 million salary for next year and a $30 million mutual option for 27, and there is a $10 million buyout, so there's a lot going in there. So when you knock it all down, St. Louis is going to pay $20 million to Gray next year, and Boston's paying $21 million. So Gray is still making a bag, and he's getting it from two different teams, and that's a lot for St. Louis to still give up for him not to even play on the team anymore. But St. Louis, as many of us saw, including myself, has decided to part ways with Sonny Gray via trade, but he does go to an AL East rival in the Red Sox. He is not going to be a part of the Orioles organization. I'm sure many of us are very happy. I've been reading a lot of different channels and a lot of different social media posts about a lot of these O's fans saying, all right, here comes Sonny Gray, here comes Max Scherzer, here comes these guys. This is what Elias is going to go after. Well, Sonny Gray is off the table, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be very happy about that. And talking about a guy that the Red Sox are trying to replace, and we've already talked about him, and that is Lucas Giolito. Does that mean that this became a little easier because Giolito was a guy that wanted to stay in Boston? And Boston, if you look at it too, they would have, if they did give Giolito a qualifying offer, it would have been a little bit over $22 million. So now they're giving 21 to Gray, so they're saving a little bit of money. Is that an upgrade? Some believe so. I don't. But Giolito was very open to going back to Boston. This kind of seals it that he will not be going back to Boston. So this kind of helps the Orioles in that case because he didn't want to leave in the first place. He thought he was going to get that qualifying offer. He doesn't. Now are the Orioles going to be able to swoop in and kind of make a deal and bring him over to Baltimore? That would be fantastic. I've already said I would not mind having Giolito in that rotation for the Orioles, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm sure Elias was on the phone about a Sonny Gray trade. I just have a feeling that he was, but now he's off the board. Go after a guy like Giolito. I'd be much happier with that. And another guy that I haven't talked about yet that would be good in the back end, that rotation, or not rotation, rather, the bullpen, and a guy you can bring in to replace Felix Bautista, and that's Kyle Finnegan. Again, we do not know when Bautista is going to be available to pitch. A lot of reports are coming out that it's going to be not much of 2026, if at all. So I know I've already mentioned a few guys. With my favorite most likely being Pete Fairbanks, I would love to get Fairbanks in as our closing pitcher for 2026. And I've seen a lot of you guys down in the comments say the same thing. Fairbanks would be a great asset for Baltimore. But if the Orioles are unable to grab Fairbanks, what about Kyle Finnegan? He's 34 years old. He struggled in 2025, and it was his first time in his career he actually posted an ERA that was over 4. And bringing him in after struggling last year, yes, it's a risk. But I think throughout his career, he's proven that he's a very valuable pitcher. And he struggled massively for the Nationals, but when he was traded to Detroit, he became old Kyle Finnegan again. So it's seeing him have a very strong finish to last year gives you another reason to potentially make that happen. But he's another guy that wouldn't mind returning to his old team. He's already stated that he would not mind at all going back to Detroit, and we'll see how aggressive Detroit is about going after him as well to bring him back. But if you're a team like the Orioles who are looking for that closing pitcher to replace Bautista for the foreseeable future until he is fully healthy, and if he's ever going to be able to get back to his old self just because of all the injuries he's faced, the veteran and Kyle Finnegan wouldn't be a bad option for the 2026 season. Again, he had a bad start to last year, but he finished it strong. Bad start with the Nationals, a strong finish with Detroit. And the final 2 months of the season, he actually had a 1.50 ERA, and he had a 34.8% strikeout rate. He had really good numbers down the stretch. He was very good in Detroit. He was definitely able to turn it around, and you definitely be hopeful to bring in a guy like that, a veteran guy like that. And I know a lot of you said you don't want a pitcher over 32, and I think most of that is when it comes to the starting pitchers. You don't want a starting pitcher over 32. But a guy like Finnegan, yes, he is 34, but he still has a good amount of years left to where he will be valuable to the Orioles, and you are mainly looking for 2026. You don't know what you're going to get out of Bautista when he returns, so having Finnegan for all of 2026 couldn't hurt. Again, there's other names out there that I wouldn't mind seeing the Orioles get, but if those options aren't available anymore, if they do go with other teams, let's go after Kyle. Again, Pete Fairbanks is probably my number one for the Orioles to go after, but if he is off the board, if he is unavailable, Kyle Finnegan wouldn't be a bad option for the Orioles to take a look at. So we'll see what happens there. Again, very interesting was that Red Sox and Cardinals trade. Boston was not the team I thought was going to go after Sonny Gray, but they do. Makes it look like Giolito is going to be going elsewhere. Hey, why not come to Baltimore? And the same thing with Kyle Finnegan. If he decides he does not want to go back to Detroit, as he is a free agent, he can go wherever he wants. But that reunion is looking like it could happen here in the near future. I wouldn't mind him being an option. Let me know what you guys think about all of that. What do you think about Sonny Gray going to Boston? What do you think about Giolito coming over to Baltimore and joining this rotation that needs some help? And what about Kyle Finnegan? Are you guys for it or against it? And that's all I had for you for this episode, guys. It is Thanksgiving, and I really do appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time on this holiday, tuning in to this latest episode. And there was one question I've had. I absolutely love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving food it's just so good. And there's always discussions about what is the best side on Thanksgiving. And I want to know down in the comments what you guys think is the best side for Thanksgiving. And I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Stuffing, sweet potato, casserole, green bean casserole, they're all great. But I think you got to go hands down with an absolute classic. Mashed potatoes, lumpy mashed potatoes is the best all-time Thanksgiving dish. Side dish. We're going side dishes. Not including ham or turkey or chicken, any of the big dishes. What is the best Thanksgiving side dish? It's lumpy mashed potatoes, hands down. Throw some gravy in there. You can't beat it. But guys, thank you so much again for spending a little Thanksgiving time with me. I really, really do appreciate it. If you were a fan of this episode, go ahead and throw some sweet potato casserole at the like button. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. This is Orioles Today. I am Sean Ferguson, and let's go O's.